My daughter Nina is 2.5, and I wanted to make her a little versatile dress that she could wear this fall and even next spring. And I found this McCall's pattern M6687, but it's in size 6, 7, and 8 only. So I want to show you how to modify a pattern to fit, because I didn't want to buy a new pattern and waste money. So I'm just going to modify this one. I bought this really nice slinky fabric that is used for clothing material. It's a little bit stretchy, it's soft, it's very silky and nice, and it'll hang nicely with this dress pattern. Okay, I wouldn't modify every pattern, but this is a simple one. See, it says easy, and the way that it's made is open on the side, so really all we have to do is make the armhole opening smaller for a 2.5-year-old and make it a little bit shorter, and it's going to be pretty simple to modify this one. Let's get started. Okay, we're making number D. So we take all the pattern pieces that have D on them, and that's the ones we're going to modify. Now you can measure and see that each one of these, size 8, size 7, size 6, are all about 1/2 inch of difference. And you can measure and make it into the perfect size. But I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to make it a little big anyway so it lasts her for a while, and it's a versatile style, so you can do that. So I'm just going to come down here and draw a line this way, and then see how these are about 1/2 inch apart too. I'm just going to make another line here and connect it up to here where they come together. And you don't have to be perfect on this. It's not about perfection. They're going to be the same on each side because you're doing it on the fold, so both sides are going to be the same anyway, so you don't have to measure it perfectly. And then come here on the inside of here and bring it up to where it meets here. And do that on all the pieces. Okay, this is the length of the dress, size 8, 7, 6. This is probably more like a 4, 3, 3.5, 4, but that's okay. I can hem it a little bit more if I need to. Now I'm going to cut this out and all the other pattern pieces. Okay, here's our pattern piece cut out, and we're going to have to modify this a little more than I originally thought because I'm missing the front. This is the back. I'm missing the front piece as well as the ties. So the way to remedy that is you take from your directions the pattern pieces. So in pattern D we need numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12. 11 and 12 are easy. It's just the ties. So you can make those really any length or any width you want. And the way to make a piece that you don't have is you look at the difference between the two. And the only difference between these two pieces is the height of the armhole. So when I cut my front fabric, I'm just going to come right here. I'm not going to measure it because it's on the fold and it'll be the same on both sides, but just going to come a little bit higher right there. And that's it. Now it's time to cut out our fabric. I like to use the least amount of fabric as possible, not to waste it. So I fold it just about exactly big enough for the widest piece of the pattern to fit on. That way I don't waste any. And put it on the fold. So this is folded over. And then we're going to cut it out. I pinned it in a few places so it wouldn't slide around on me. We're done with the back. I'm going to take the pin so I can use the pattern for the front. Okay, we're to that spot that I was going to modify. Since we're using the back pattern and the front pattern has a slightly higher armpit, we're just going to go slightly higher before we cut back. And you don't have to measure. This is not about perfection. It's about using what you have and making do. And that's it. And then continue cutting along the regular line. Well, what do you know? I found the pattern piece I was missing. I must have set it to the side to cut the other one. Anyway, if we did it right, then this piece should line up about right here. Let's see if it does. Put it down there, the fold. And look at there, it does. Woohoo. Okay, before I move on to sewing this dress, I was just going to say you can also modify it larger. So instead of coming in, if you need to make a size 9, you go to the number 8 and you just say this was 8. You just go out for size 9, size 10, and you can adjust it up too if you need it to be bigger. Okay, right before we sew, I'm going to put all the pattern pieces back up in there so we don't lose them. We can use them for another time, and pull out the directions for Pinafore D. Okay, I've opened the front and turned it over. Put a pin right in the middle. There's going to be a tuck on each side of the pin, so I'm just going to pinch on each side of the pin, pinch, and sew down that pinch 4 inches to make the tuck. It's actually easier to mark the line than hold the little ruler. And there are the little tucks from the front. Now we stitch the back to the front at the shoulders, right sides together. And we're going to sew the shoulders. The standard seam allowance is 5/8 inches, but since we're trying to go smaller on this pattern, I'm going to go all the way over to the 3/4 of an inch seam allowance on all of my seams. Okay, it turns out that pattern piece number 11 was the neck binding, so I am going to go ahead and cut that out and use that pattern piece. It says to put the stretch this way. Now, all fabric has a stretchy side and a non-stretchy side, but this fabric is stretchy both ways. It's stretchy that way and that way, so it's okay to use either direction. Now I'm connecting that neck binding right sides together, again with that larger seam allowance. And there it is, turned right side out. Okay, now I've pulled out my heat mat because it's a lot easier than pulling out the big ironing board, and we're gonna fold under and iron about 1/2 inch of the outside of this neck band. We're gonna do that all the way around. Now we're back around full circle with the press. I know we don't always like to iron, but it really does make a big difference in the overall ease of the project as well as the look. All right, we've come to the most difficult part of this project, and that is attaching the neck band to the pinafore. So we're just taking the seam that we just hemmed and we're putting right sides together from the neckband and the dress, and we're going to pin those all the way around and sew a 3/4 of an inch seam allowance. Even though it's kind of tricky, I really like this part of the sewing, attaching the neck lining to the bodice. Here's the part I find so satisfying. When the neckband is shorter than the dress and you have to stretch it, and it just pulls in the whole neckband. And you stretch. Okay, now we're on that final stretch where we started. Now I'm going to top stitch to hold that binding down. This is what it looks like from the back, and I just press that down, and now I'm top stitching. This is not exactly the way the pattern said to do it. It wanted me to do an edge stitch, but I'm a little bit of a rebel when it comes to reading patterns, and if I find something's a little bit easier in my mind, I just go with that. Okay, now it's time to press and hem all the unfinished edges around the side and the bottom. Come into the last side. And we're just sewing those down. Normally with stretchy fabric, you would use a zigzag stitch or serger, but I don't need this fabric to stretch, so I'm just using a straight stitch. All right, we're down to the last part. This piece number 12 is the armhole binding, and it says cut 4, and that is just annoying because it's a long piece, right? So I just folded this over twice to make 4 layers, and I just pinned it down, and I'm going to cut it that way. If I had my cutting table cleared off, I would use a rotary cutter and make it even faster and easier. But I don't, so we're doing it the old-fashioned way. Through 4 layers. Okay, we're taking 2 and seaming them together, so we have 2 long pieces. Same thing to the other 2, right sides together. Take those 2 very long pieces, fold them in half, and press them together all the way down, both of the pieces. Okay, and the last thing we are going to do is take these very long bands of binding and attach them to the armpits on each side, here and here, with right sides together. We're coming to the curve, and I'm just going to hold it where I want it, watching out not to sew myself. Look at Mommy! Okay, here's the finished pinafore. So much for keeping Nina still so I could show it to you. She's just spinning around, but I found this mannequin that I could put it on to show you. So the ties are on the side. Those are adjustable. You can wear this over a short sleeve shirt or a dress or a long sleeve shirt for winter. And it's very versatile. She'll be able to wear this for many years to come. I made this in her nap time. So 3 hours, start to finish. All right, thank you for joining the Grady Bunch, Mom.